Hello, everyone. Today we have the great joy to have a special guest in Romania, even if only online. We are talking today with Louise Penny. She is the most beloved author of the Inspectorul Gamache series, which Trei Publishing House has on its list for, I don't know, I think 3 years now. So welcome, Louise Penny, to Romania.
Thank you, Virginia, and thank you to everyone who's watching and who's found and embraced Gamache and Three Pines and everyone else.
Yeah, it's an idyllic place, Three Pines, and Gamache family and their friends are, I don't know, they look and feel like fairy tale characters. So my first question is, how did Armand Gamache came to life?
It was all sort of happened at the same time. Gamache, the village, the villagers. I have to admit that every decision I made with the first book, Still Life, which became the template, of course, for the series, was selfish. I didn't think the books would be published, or the book, that one. Not that I didn't want it to, and not that I didn't think that it was genius. But, I mean, honestly, what are the chances of being published? I was a journalist before, and I was pretty clear that most books aren't. And even if a book is great, they're often turned down. So I realized that the writing of it would have to be, the pleasure. And it may be the only reward I get would be the writing, that it would never be published. And so every decision I made, as I said, was selfish. I created a village I would choose to live in, characters I would choose as friends, as you mentioned, and a main character. I'd read about the time that I was creating this that Agatha Christie, you might have heard of this, Virginia, Agatha Christie had grown weary of Poirot. And which always struck me as so sad because the whole world loves Poirot except his mother. And I thought, well, first of all, I thought a few things. I thought, I wonder if she grew tired of him because he never evolved. He never grew. He was essentially the same man in the final one as he was in The Mysterious Affair at Styles. And that grows wearisome, with whether it's a fictional character or someone in your life who never grows. So I never wanted to grow tired of my main character. And so I decided to make him a man I would marry. And I gave him all the qualities I admire in a man, but certainly, as it turns out, in a human being. So he's warm and loving and self-deprecating. He has a sense of humor. He's smart, but he's got his flaws for sure. He has a certain hubris, a sense that he has insight into others. And the second in command, Beauvoir, is very, very worried about that because he thinks that where Gamache sees kindness, other people might see cruelty. So that's really how Gamache came about. I thought, I'll create someone whose company I will like. And as it turned out, I remember going downstairs one day when I was just writing Still Life, and there was my husband, Michael. We were at the breakfast table, and I'm babbling away about, I don't know, the latest episode of some sitcom or reality show, and he's talking about world peace. And I realized that I didn't create Gamache at all. I transcribed the man. This really is inspired by my husband.
Wonderful. You mentioned Agatha Christie, and I had a feeling that your writing resembles Agatha Christie's. It's a classical writing. I don't know, it keeps you there, makes you part of the story, and this is a great quality for a novel like that. But I want to ask you, because you also said you were a journalist before writing. When did you decide to end your career as a journalist and write for a living?
Well, I really wanted to be a writer since I was a child, but I was really just too fearful. I've been fearful, not so much now, but certainly a lot of my life. And it has been a real tyranny where I get close to doing something I really want and then back away and do something adjacent to it for fear of failure, fear of the judgment of others. Finally, I reached my late 30s. And as I said, I was a journalist. I did hard news, current affairs for the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. And Quebec had just gone through its second sovereignty referendum, and I was one of the main hosts on it. And it was brutal. It was bruising. It was so close, so close. It was a razor's edge. It could have gone either way, whether Quebec would separate from the rest of Canada or stay in. Obviously, just a seminal vote. And when it's that close, everyone comes away shattered. Nobody feels an actual winner. And for me, I think I crossed a line at that point and just thought, I don't want to look at the world anymore like it's threatening. I don't want to interview people who've done mean things or about to do mean things or who deny mean things. I was tired and worn down. And Michael, God bless him, knew of my dream to write. And so he said, if you want to, he said the most beautiful thing, Virginia, he said, is almost as great as the first day he said, I love you. Not quite as good, but almost. He said, if you want to quit work in order to write that book, I'll support you. And he meant it. He meant it. From the day he said it till the day he died, he supported me.
I think you had a great love story with your husband.
Yeah, how lucky is that?
Yeah, it's wonderful. The first novel, Still Life, was published in 2005, right?
Yes.
So we are 17 years late. Have you imagined that a long career for the series and for Armand Gamache? Never. As I said, I didn't know that the first one would even be finished, never mind published. As I said, I wanted to write since I was 8. As soon as Michael said, you can quit work, I did. I quit work as soon as I could, and then suffered 5 years of writer's block. So it was really far from sure that any of this would happen. I have had a life and a career and a second chance beyond anything I had any right to even dream of, never mind expect. And every day I am amazed. I get to sit at the kitchen table, which is where I write, and visit characters who have become, I don't want to sound precious, but they've become like friends, not actual friends, of course, but like friends. And when things are difficult, when Michael was going through his illness or through the pandemic, I could go to Three Pines and I could be with these people whose company I actually did enjoy. And I in many ways wrote it so that, in the hopes that it would bring comfort to other people. And then to find such comfort in my own creations was a blessing and unexpected. Yeah, indeed. Almost all the books have the setting in Three Pines, but we have All the Devils Are Here, which is set in Paris. So why did you choose Paris?
You're quite right that not all the books are set in Three Pines, because it became clear after, I think it was the third book, that it was a little bit too much to ask of a little village to have that murder rate happening. It would soon be emptied out between the people who got killed and the people who get arrested. So I decided to set every third or fourth book at least partially somewhere else. And actually, as the series goes on, most of the crimes don't actually happen in Three Pines, but Armand and his family moved to Three Pines. And so there's a lot of Three Pines in each book. It is the heart of the stories. so yeah, I did set one in a monastery and then one, as you say, in Paris. I really wanted, you said earlier, and it's so true, I'm now writing the 18th book, the 17 have been published. And I have a lot more gray hair than when I started. The challenge when you write a series with the same core group and essentially in the same location is not to write the same book over and over again. And I don't think anyone does it on purpose, or very few people want to be formulaic, but I sure don't. So each book is different in tone, if not in place. The themes explored are all different. Often the structure is different. The pacing is different, intentionally, of course, partly to make it interesting for readers who are giving me their time and often spending their precious money on these books. I want to give them a good experience, but also for myself. I don't at this stage have to write. I write because I want to, and the joy of it and the challenge of it. So I want to keep pushing myself. And so taking Gamache out of his comfort zone and mine, out of Quebec, and taking him to Paris was a challenge and a risk, because I knew a lot of readers love Three Pines and they read it for that community and the comfort that it offers. But it was time. And Gamache's son lives in Paris. So there was actually a reason to go, for them to go there. It wasn't like, suddenly he shows up in Jamaica because I want a trip to Jamaica.
Yeah. Armand Gamache has endured a lot in the series, a job in the family. Have you ever thought of putting him, I don't know, make him retire for good, or send him in a long holiday?
What are you saying? Oh, no. But people do ask, because he started off in his mid-50s and he is still in his mid-50s, whereas everybody else is, his grandchildren are getting older and older. They're going to lap him eventually. So no, I, as long as I am enjoying being in his company, and writing and all of them, his family and the Sûreté officers and the Three Pines, then I'm just going to keep. And if people stop reading them, then that's fine, and it will probably happen one day. But I'm going to keep writing the stories of these people. And the sort of ancillary benefit and gift is that, as I said, when things are tough, I get to go to Three Pines. I get to be in their company, and now because Armand is inspired by Michael, I get to be in his company every day. So no, Armand will never retire or shuffle off the mortal coil until I do. I'm taking him with me.
Yeah. I noticed that music plays an important role in your books. There is a music reference in every book, not one, but many. Do you use music as a background while writing, or how do you incorporate music in your works?
Music's really important for me, and you're right. In one of the books, The Beautiful Mystery is about music and about the Gregorian chants, which were the sort of the beginning of music, of the music that we know now, and often inadvertently or unsuspectingly inspired a lot of the music we hear today, from rap to classical. And so I really wanted to explore that. But music in my life is really, Virginia, if I could be given a gift I don't already have, I would say, please let me be able to sing. I would love to join a choir. Can you imagine being in a choir of 100 voices around you? Oh my God, it would be amazing. And I've taken music lessons. I'm awful. just, I can't sing. I can't dance. I know that. Just none of that. But I love music. I can't listen to it while I'm writing because I'm just so in that world that, well, I guess it could be on, but I wouldn't listen to it. But I listen to a lot of music when I'm not writing, in the hours that I'm not writing. And I find, and I explore this in The Beautiful Mystery, I find that it's able to take me to a place of creativity that I couldn't normally access. And I've started, in the pandemic, I've started running. So now I listen to music, and I have each novel has a soundtrack. So I can go back and see, the different, all through the years, what the different songs were. And I come up with a lot of thoughts. I hear characters singing, talking, their dialogue. Problems are solved when I just let go and let the music take over.
Also, the food is a colorful ingredient.
That I can do. Although I don't cook.
You don't cook, but you are very good at eating, right?
Exactly. It's a gift. Years of practice. Do you cook?
No. Also, I am very good at eating. But how did you create the local bistro in 3 Pines? And it looks like a real life place, When you read about it, you have the urge to get out and go and find such place in your city.
Oh, thank you. I think that setting is a character, and it was so important to bring the whole village alive. But the bistro, as you pointed out, is really the heart of the village, where people meet. The table is so important, isn't it? It's where families get together. It's where friends break bread. It's where conversations take place, where confidences are exchanged. And I wanted to create that sense of coming together. Because the books are obviously and very proudly crime novels. But really, that's the stepping off point. That's the alpha, not the omega. They're about love. They're about our yearning to belong. They're about friendship and community. And a lot of that is centered on the bistro. So it was, for me, it's not actually inspired by any particular place. It's my ideal place. And then, of course, the food. When I write, I have piles of poetry books and piles of cookbooks. And then when it's time, depending on the season, I choose whatever. And it's time for lunch, and I pick up a cookbook and go through it. What do I feel like? What are they going to eat?
Great idea. Please tell me, what is your writing routine? Do you have one, or are you a disciplined writer? Do you write every day? Do you take some time for yourself and then continue the book?
I am very disciplined, mostly because if I'm not, then I once took a personality test of what's your cardinal quality. Is it kindness or patience, generosity? And it turns out that mine is sloth, which is generally laziness, which was a little annoying because I didn't think that was one of the options. Everybody else got something like loving, but it didn't surprise me. So if I'm not disciplined, I will just sit on the sofa and watch reruns of Gilligan's Island all day and eat eclairs. So I've learned that self-discipline. When I was a journalist, the discipline was imposed from the outside because, you had story meetings and deadlines, and you have to be on air at a certain time and off air at a certain time. But then when I started working all on my own, I found it difficult. And I think that was part of the writer's block, was I hadn't quite clued into the fact that I had to create a timetable for myself. I'm also very goal-oriented. So I need to set a goal for myself. So every day I get up at a certain time, generally very early, This morning I got up just before 5 because I had other things I had to do, and then write. And I set a word goal, 1,000 words a day, minimally. I'm very disciplined about that. And then in the afternoon, I'll do, conversations or emails or whatever has to be done. There's a lot that goes into managing a career. It's not just writing. It's a lot of other stuff.
Nice. Besides discipline, is there any other ingredient in writing a great mystery, as you do?
I think imagination, courage, for sure, and writing anything, whether it's a crime novel or what poetry book or anything. I had not here where I am. I'm in London right now, but in my main home in Quebec, I have a poster of the last words of the Irish poet Seamus Heaney, who on his deathbed said to his wife, "Noli timere," which means "be not afraid." So I have it in front of me when I write because it would be easy to just become formulaic, just write whatever, go the easy route, instead of taking chances. And I think if I'm going to achieve what I want to achieve, I have to take risks. Not just risks in terms of, sometimes it's about the structure or pace, but often it's about things that I want to explore and going deeper into myself and owning some of the less pleasant parts of myself. So I think self-awareness is important. Yeah, courage, imagination.
Yeah. I know you wrote State of Terror with the former First Lady of the United States.
Now that took courage.
Yes, indeed.
For both of us, actually.
How was that experience for you?
It was really, I'm going to say strange. It's just very different because I'd never written with anyone before. And I had no idea how that was going to work because my first drafts tend to be really awful because I'm trying different things and I have different characters and different storylines and different themes. And it's just this big pile of something soft and smelly, and you never want to have to read that. But there was Hillary, who was going to have to read this pile of stuff that was soft and smelly. And I'd never really had to consult anyone. I just did what felt right. And she'd never written fiction before. So we were both feeling quite vulnerable. We were fortunate, well, on a number of levels. One was that it was the pandemic, so we had nothing else happening. We could absolutely focus. It was unfortunate that we couldn't actually sit together and do it. So we would have meetings like this where we would toss around ideas. We were also fortunate that we were friends beforehand, and we'd made the pact that whatever happens, the book could not be more important than our friendship. That at the end of the day, we need to be even closer than when we started. And the other thing that was lucky, and you'd probably appreciate this, is that the publishers who approached us, we didn't come up with that idea. We came up with a plot and everything, but they approached us and said, "Do you want to do a political thriller together?" And when we said, "Yeah, you know what, I think we will." And then they said, "Well, that's good, but before we pay you, you have to write an outline." I said, "What do you mean an outline?" I hadn't written an outline in like 15 years. Hillary had written them, but for her nonfiction. It's normal to do it for nonfiction. So I was a little annoyed, to be honest with you, especially since they had approached us. They said, "Yeah, we're not really sure you can do it." I said, "Well, that's a fine time to tell us now." But she and I, over the Zoom, wrote a 19-page outline, which is very detailed. And that turned out to be spectacularly helpful. So it was a much better process than I would have thought. So interesting. I mean, she's brilliant. She's always going to be the smartest person in any room in the world. But she's also very funny. And her insights into the geopolitical landscape. And she saw, a year before it happened, what happened with the Taliban coming into Afghanistan. And talking to her about Putin, who may or may not be in the book.
Have you ever thought to try another genre, maybe poetry? Because I'm sure you like poetry.
Yeah, I have a lot of it, don't I? Well, not a lot, but I hope not too much. That's one of the challenges, isn't it? It's not to put in, like, because you know, if someone's reading a page and they see poetry, they're going, oh, for heaven's sake. But the poetry I use isn't mine. I wish it was. It's actually, most of it is Margaret Atwood's. And I didn't know whether because I write it with her permission, of course, I put it in, but it's not actually her that's giving the permission. It's her agent or publisher or someone else. So I didn't know whether she knew the books at all. And then I did an event with her last year, and turns out that she knows the books and likes them and approves of the poetry. But no, I'm as good a poet as I am a musician.
I understand. And my last question, what books do you have on your nightstand these days?
Oh, that's interesting. Oh my God, what's his name? Robert. He wrote Fatherland. He wrote Pompeii. And I've just started his trilogy on ancient Rome, on Cicero. And it's called Imperium. I can't remember his name. Sorry about that. And I just bought, Hilary and I were talking after the death of Madeleine Albright, and she said, have you read her book on fascism? And I said, no, I haven't. So she said, really, you might want to pick it up. So I went to a local bookstore here, John Sandow, and picked up the Madeleine Albright book.
Louise Penny, thank you so much for this interview.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for your brief visit to Romania. Maybe someday you will come to visit us and meet your readers here.
I would love that.
And we are expecting the next Armand Gamache adventure.
Well, thank you so much too for being the home for Gamache in Romania. It means a lot to me. And thank you for this, Virginia. You've been wonderful. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you.